She was drunk when she said it. Her words slurred but unmistakably clear. "I was never attracted to you," she confessed, her voice lazy with intoxication. "And I can't stop seeing other men." Her admission hit me harder than I ever thought words could. It felt like a slap, a sharp, sudden sting followed by a dull, spreading ache. I sat there, frozen, as she chuckled to herself, swirling the wine in her glass before finishing it off. Moments later, she slumped over, passing out as if she had just unburdened herself of something insignificant. But to me, those words changed everything. By sunrise, I had made my decision. No notes, no explanations, no goodbyes. I simply vanished. My name is Phil. I've always believed that hard work could fix anything. It was ingrained in me from a young age. Keep your head down, push forward, and eventually, everything falls into place. That philosophy shaped every aspect of my life, including my marriage. For as long as I can remember, my days were consumed by work, meetings, deadlines, deals. I worked tirelessly, convinced that providing a good life for my wife meant I was being a good husband. When I wasn't physically at work, she was on my mind. I thought about ways to make her happy, planned surprises, brought back gifts from business trips, and even organized weekend getaways when my schedule allowed. It wasn't perfect, but love wasn't about perfection, it was about effort. Or at least, that's what I believed. Looking back, I see the cracks now. They were always there. I just chose to ignore them. Lately, things between us had been distant. She barely acknowledged me anymore. At first, I rationalized it. We'd only been married for 2 years. Maybe this was just a natural phase. Deep down, though, I knew better. Something was wrong. I convinced myself that if I just worked harder, if I showed her more love, gave her more attention, things would go back to how they were. I thought love could fix anything. I was wrong. When I noticed the tension between us growing, I decided to take action. A romantic dinner, her favorite meal, the one I hadn't made since our first date. Maybe it would remind her of the love we once shared. Maybe it would bring her back to me. I spent the entire afternoon preparing. Chicken parmesan with garlic mashed potatoes. I set the table with candles, dimmed the lights just right, and curated a playlist of the soft love songs she used to adore. It was my way of saying, "I see you. I miss you. I'm trying." When she walked in, she hesitated. "Wow," she murmured, glancing around. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw something. Gratitude, maybe. She kissed my cheek, sat down, and smiled. For a while, everything felt normal again. She laughed, genuinely, for the first time in months. She complimented my cooking, joked that I might secretly be the better chef. And I allowed myself to believe that this night was the beginning of something new. Then, after her third glass of wine, everything unraveled. At first, it was subtle. Her body language loosened, her words became slower, freer. I didn't think much of it, until she set her glass down and looked at me with an almost wistful expression. "You're a nice guy," she said. "You make sure I'm okay. That's why I'm with you." Something in my stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" She laughed, a soft sound, but one laced with pity. "I mean, I've never really been attracted to you. Not in that way." Her words stole the air from my lungs. I wanted to stop her, to make her take it back, but she kept going, as if she were explaining something as simple as the weather. "You're sweet, gentle, safe, but you're not my type." Then, as if that wasn't enough, she described her type. Someone rougher, edgier, reckless. The complete opposite of me. And then, the final blow. When I met him, my type, I just couldn't resist. One thing led to another and... She didn't finish her sentence, but she didn't have to. The truth was laid bare between us. I sat there, nodding like a fool, as my wife, the woman I had dedicated my life to, justified her betrayal like it was nothing. And in that moment, something in me shifted. There was no remorse in her voice, no regret in her eyes. Just drunken honesty. I didn't need to fight. I didn't need to scream. I just needed to listen and decide what came next. That night, as she slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying her words in my mind. How I was never her type. How she stayed with me because I was safe. How she had already found what she really wanted elsewhere. I didn't feel anger. Only clarity. Fighting wouldn't change anything. She had shown me exactly who she was. And I believed her. She didn't deserve a confrontation. She didn't deserve closure. What she deserved was to see what life without me really meant. By the time the sun rose, I knew what I had to do. I left the house the same way I always did, quietly, deliberately, giving no indication that anything had changed. Except this time, I wasn't coming back. The first call I made was to my lawyer. I told him to prepare the divorce papers immediately, ensuring everything was in place to sever our ties. The second call was to my accountant, a sharp man who wasted no time. Within hours, he had begun liquidating my shares in our jointly owned investments. By the end of the day, our joint accounts were empty. The moment I made my decision, and I had full control over my future again. I picked up my phone and called my family. I didn't see the need to explain everything. Some details were better left unsaid. But there was one thing I made absolutely clear. Under no circumstances were they to entertain her. If she called, they were to tell her nothing. No updates, no reassurances, no breadcrumbs to follow. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions without anyone there to soften the fall. After that, I reached out to my lawyer and left a message, one that would be delivered to her the moment she inevitably tried to contact me. She would receive the divorce papers soon. No explanations, no drawn-out conversations, no apologies. Just the stark, undeniable truth of what she had lost. A few weeks later, the papers were served. As expected, she tried to reach out. My lawyer informed me of her attempts, calls, emails, even showing up at his office, desperate to talk. But I never responded. What could I possibly say that she didn't already know? She begged for an explanation, but the truth was, she already had it. At first, she resisted signing the papers. Maybe she thought she could salvage what we had, or maybe she just didn't want to lose the stability I had provided for her. But when she saw the financial settlement, she caved. I wasn't surprised. In the end, she always prioritized herself. And just like that, the chapter was closed. When I walked out of that marriage, I wasn't thinking about what would happen to her. My only concern was freeing myself from the lies, the disrespect, the complete lack of care she had for me as a person. I thought to myself, let her have the life she wants. And for a while, it seemed like she did. She embraced her newfound freedom, throwing herself into the distractions she always craved, nights out, new clothes, new men. I even heard from mutual acquaintances that she joked about finally living the life she deserved. But people like her never think past the moment. She saw freedom as an escape, believing she could do whatever she wanted without consequence. But life has a way of catching up with you. And it did. I found out through an old friend, one who still indulged in gossip, that she was pregnant. It wasn't planned, not that I expected it to be. The father, gone, vanished the moment she told him. No calls, no texts, just silence. She was left to deal with it alone. And that wasn't all. The settlement money? She burned through it like it was nothing. By the time the baby arrived, she was drowning in debt. She had to sell the house, the last piece of the life we had shared, now just a distant memory. Her so-called friends, they scattered the moment she needed them. People like her attract others who are just as shallow, just as selfish. They were there for the fun, but the moment she started asking for help, money, babysitting, even just someone to talk to, they disappeared. Her stories weren't entertaining anymore. She got what she wanted. Freedom. But freedom without responsibility comes with a price. She lost everything that truly mattered because she never valued it in the first place. Did I feel sorry for her? No. But I wasn't sitting somewhere reveling in her downfall, either. I just didn't care. She was a closed chapter. Some people think they're running toward happiness when, in reality, they're sprinting straight into disaster. And when she hit that wall, no one was there to catch her. Years passed. My life moved on, not in a grand, dramatic way, but quietly, steadily. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Then one day, she found me. I was at home, sitting by the window with a book in hand, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. But when I opened the door, there she was. She hadn't changed much. Still put together, still carrying herself with that same air of confidence I once admired. Her eyes met mine, searching, as if trying to read my reaction. But all I felt was cold, quiet detachment. She hesitated before speaking, as if waiting for permission. I gave her none. Finally, she broke the silence. "I've been trying to find you for years," she said, her voice shaking. "I needed to tell you how sorry I am. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. And I've paid for it every single day since." She waited for me to say something, anything. I didn't. I just leaned against the doorframe, watching her squirm. "I thought I could have everything," she continued, her hands clasped together. "I thought I could find excitement somewhere else and still keep you. But I was wrong. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone." Her words spilled out in a desperate, messy confession. She told me everything, about how her life had fallen apart, the failed relationships, the debt, the loneliness. She even admitted that she had been left pregnant and alone. Finally, with tears streaming down her face, she whispered, "Please, I need you. I've never stopped needing you." I leaned in slightly, locking eyes with her. I wanted her to understand. This wasn't a conversation. It was the end of one. "You made your choice," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You were never attracted to me, remember? I wasn't your type. So go find your type. See if he wants you now." She flinched, as if my words had physically struck her. But I wasn't done. "I don't care what you regret. I don't care how much you've suffered. That's your burden to carry, not mine. Don't ever show your face to me again." I stepped back, closed the door, and walked away without a second thought. I didn't need her apologies, her regret, or her explanations. That part of my life was over, and there was no reason to reopen it. As I walked away, I reflected on the man I had become. Losing her had broken me in ways I never thought possible. But it had also forced me to rebuild. And I was still rebuilding. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give someone who betrays you is your absence. And sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away and never look back. In losing her, I found myself. And that was the only closure I ever needed. So let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Think about it. You sit down for dinner, hoping to reconnect, only for your wife, the woman you vowed to spend your life with, to casually tell you, between sips of wine, that you're not her type. That she's been with other men. And she even laughs about it. What would you do? Would you fight for someone who doesn't value you? Or would you walk away? Look, I'm not here to tell anyone what's right or wrong, but let me share something I've learned the hard way. If someone shows you they don't respect you, don't make excuses for them. Don't let their lack of appreciation chip away at your self-worth. People will treat you how you allow them to treat you. And if they get away with it once, they'll do it again. Leaving isn't easy. It's painful. It's messy. And yes, it's lonely at first. But in the long run, it's worth it. Because being alone is far better than being with someone who makes you feel like you're not enough.